friends, it's Alexa, and today I'm going to be doing the Time and Place book tag. I actually was not tagged to do this, but I saw the video on CC of Problem at a Book Nerd's channel, and I absolutely love the idea behind it, so I decided I wanted to do it as well. The original creator of this tag was Jen Campbell. Basically, you're supposed to pick 10 books that show that you can remember or associate with a specific time and place in your life, so I'm gonna be doing that today. I feel like I could do this more than once though, so this is probably gonna be like the first batch, and then I'll do like another one at some point in the future. So without further ado, let's get started on the 10 books that I wanted to share with you today. Golden by Jessie Kirby, and I remember reading this one. I was in my old apartment on my bed, and it was just a lazy afternoon for me, and I remember reading this book and I was sobbing by the end of it. I was so extremely moved by this story because I could relate to it so much, and I just found the main character to be sort of like a mirror of who I had been in high school. Basically, Golden is the story of a girl named Parker Frost, who, yes, is related to Robert Frost, and she's basically been a good girl all her life. She's gonna graduate valedictorian, she's always played by the rules, and she has really done nothing to take risks or anything like that. So in this book, a mystery of sorts falls into her lap, and she decides to go out of her way to solve it, and that involves getting to do things that she's never done before or even contemplated doing, and I love that so much. It just really appealed to the adventurous spirit inside my introvert personality, and yeah, it was really great, and I loved it so much. This book got a 5 out of 5 stars from me, and I would still recommend it to anyone. How to Love by Katie Cotugno, and I remember where I was when I was reading this. I was in our condo in the Philippines, and I was reading it on my bed in the middle of the day. I had a cup of coffee and some chocolate covered blueberries, and it was amazing, and I fell in love with this book. I was so caught up in the story. How to Love is the story of Rena and Sawyer, who used to be a couple, and Rena got pregnant and obviously had the kid, and Sawyer actually leaves town in the midst of all of that, and he comes back years later, and they sort of try to reconcile and work things out. And yeah, it was a beautiful book. I absolutely adored it, and I honestly really do think of that day with fond memories. The Weight of Feathers by Anna Marie McLemore, and I'm sure you guys have seen me talk about this one. It's basically about 2 rival families who are all traveling performing acts. The Corbus are basically aerial artists, so they always perform in the branches of trees, and the Palomas are more mermaid, or more like mermaids, and they do mermaid exhibitions in the water. And they're basically rivals, and there's history behind them. But the story is about 2 people, Lace Paloma and Cluck Corbu. Their paths cross, they end up forming a relationship, and yeah, a lot of secrets are unraveled and things unfold, and I really enjoyed it. The writing is absolutely beautiful in this one, you guys, and you definitely should check it out if you've got a chance. I read this one when I was on a ferry to Martha's Vineyard last year with my in-laws and my husband and one of our aunts, and it was just the perfect setting to read it. Like, the sun was out, the waves, I could hear them, the movement of the boat was super smooth, and it was just like, I think it was like an hour-long ferry ride, and I just was so swept up in the story. I read part of it going, and then part of it going back, and then I finished it when we got back to Cape Cod, and I absolutely loved it. Ransom by Julie Garwood, and I remember exactly where I was the first time I read this. In my house, in my hometown, there's like a long window seat, and I remember sitting there one afternoon and just devouring this entire story, and it was incredible. This is basically the story of an English lady named Jillian, and she is trying to escape the baron that kind of oversees her household, and in her escape she manages to also free a little boy who's been taken captive, and she decides that she wants to accompany home, and she crosses paths with the Scottish lads, who are basically a part of the family that this kid came from, and it's a historical romance between her and one of the Scottish lords, and I freaking love this book. It is still one of my favorite historical romance reads ever, and I like to go back and check it out from time to time, and I have recommended this one to countless people. And yeah, I read it at the tender age of 13, and it's still a favorite all these many years later. Anna and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins. It's basically about a girl named Anna who ends up going to a boarding school of sorts in Paris, and there she meets a new group of friends and a cute boy. Yeah, that's basically all I want to say about it. And there are 2 places that I associate with this book. I basically read it with my 2 best friends, Pam and Jamie, and this was like a couple of years ago. We started at the bookstore and read it out loud to each other, and then we finished it at Jamie's rental back in the day, and we were also still reading it out loud to each other, and it was just such a special experience to share with my best friends, and I really enjoyed that, and I still really enjoy this book and the rest of the series. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows by J.K. Rowling, and y'all don't even need me to tell you what this is about. It's just the last book in the Harry Potter series. I remember this book really well because my husband and I actually pre-ordered it at a tiny little bookstore near where he worked. So we went to pick it up early on the morning that it came out in the Philippines, and then we both literally just went separate ways so that we could both read the book. And I was shut in my condo for the entire time just devouring the story, and it was so damn good and I loved it. I cried and I laughed and it was perfect, and best thing ever. After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid. After I Do is the story of Ryan and Lauren, who have decided to take a trial separation after having some problems in their marriage. And that makes it sound so simple, but it's so much more complex than that, and Taylor Jenkins Reid is definitely capable of capturing that. And I remember reading this one really well. It was the first Taylor Jenkins Reid novel I had ever read, and it was also a couple of years ago, and I was spending the 4th of July on my own at home just relaxing, because I decided I just wanted to be really chill and take a break from things. And it was in the old apartment. I was on my couch and I was reading this one, and like while the fireworks were like lit up and going off in our neighborhood, I was like sobbing on my couch reading this book, and it was amazing and I will never forget it. Rite of Passage by Joyanne Hensley. Rite of Passage is basically about a girl named Sam who is part of the first batch of females to go to a military school, and it's the story of her experience at that school. And it's just so good. The characters are great, the setting is great, the story is compelling, it's just amazing, and I absolutely loved it. I only wanted to share this one because I remember where I was when I read the last 25% of it. I had just gotten off the subway on my way to work and I could not put it down. So I stood on the subway platform and spent like the next 20 to 30 minutes just standing there reading it. I was like tearing up and like tears were streaming down my cheeks, and it was amazing. And I really enjoyed it. I think this book is so great. The Start of Me and You by Emery Lord. It's Emery Lord's second novel, and this is basically about a girl named Paige who is still getting over the grief she feels over the loss of her boyfriend after his death. And she does so with the help of her friends, and she kind of gets interested in a new guy, and like it's just a really quiet, cute story about overcoming grief and overcoming obstacles to continue living your own life. And I wanted to mention this one because I remember also where I finished reading it. I read the last, I remember this because I went to work early, so I stopped by the Starbucks that used to be on the corner of our street, which is not there anymore, which makes me really sad. And I got my drink and I sat at the table and I read like the last 40% of it at the table, and I was crying the whole time. So yeah, that's how I was reading this book in public with tears streaming down my face. It was amazing. The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon, because I totally remember where I was when I read it. I was on a plane on my way home to the Philippines, and I started this book on the plane, could not put it down, finished it on the plane that I had to transfer to after my first plane, and it was amazing. I was so like swept up in the story that Samantha had told, and I absolutely loved it, and I needed to mention it because it was amazing, and I cannot wait for the sequel to the series. So there you have it, guys. Those are all the books that I wanted to mention for the Time and Place book tag video. And I don't know who hasn't done this tag, but in any case, I'm gonna tag my friends Kristen of Super Space Chick, Tiffany of About to Read, and Monica of She Might Be Monica. And yeah, I will see you guys for another video soon. Bye!